I've talked before on this channel about my adoration for Yasumi Matsuno and his work, notably his ability to craft characters and worlds that don't fall into neat and easy digestible black and white truths. That he challenges the player. He creates flawed characters, sometimes tragically so, and often inspired by real-world conflicts and geopolitical strife, makes his worlds human and complicated. Truly speaking, Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the reasons I started really getting into RPGs. Not only did the mechanics and combat work for me, but the story was genuinely refreshing. Again, Matsuno's recognizable style and Hitoshi Sakamoto's beautiful soundtrack helped to create a distinct feel. A feel that was germinating in Tactics Ogre and that he would go on to replicate and refine in various ways throughout his career with titles like Final Fantasy XII and Vagrant Story. All undeniably Matsuno, all invariably dealing with political melodrama and the occult, and all feeling about as distinct a story can be in this medium. It's hard, even with 12 Sloths for instance, to mistake that world with the world of any other designer. It was with a bit of disappointment, then, when I came across some statements made by Tetsuya Takahashi, creator of the Xeno projects. After completing his long and troubled Xenosaga project, Takahashi stated that he kind of felt video games weren't a good medium for storytelling. Now, it's important to note that Takahashi was quite frustrated during this period. His baby, his massive project, had been significantly scaled back, rushed through, and harshly criticized for things that, in some ways, Takahashi had little control over, and other things, in fact, most things that he had plenty of control over. So it's safe to say that he probably felt a little jaded, and it might be unfair to focus in on a comment that very well could have been flippantly tossed out in an interview. In fact, his recent projects seem to demonstrate a lot about his personal growth as a storyteller, and learning when too much ambition just hurts a project. But it seems to me that Matsuno, the game designer I most often hear labeled as a true auteur, stands in direct contradiction to these statements by Takahashi, himself also a fellow legendary designer. While I get some of the criticisms of Matsuno's titles, that they tend to lack an overbearing central evil figure, and deal with extensive political backroom backstabbing and alliance switching, which is admittedly hard to follow and can itself be less interesting to those that need more immediate in-your-face stakes, I will always contend that some of the characters Matsuno and his team created aggressively separate themselves from others of the same archetype. From Delita in Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the purest representations of tragedy, of utter despair and extreme angst unleashed on the world, and the careful beginning of Delita that showed the player what drove him to such lengths, that even if just a little bit helped to explain his madness. Or Denim, the main character in Tactics Ogre, who is shown by his enemies time and time again that he is truly a terrorist in their eyes, and that the people sent to stop him have lost family members, loved ones, and children in his wake and his cause. Though it may be against a corrupt system of oppression and violence, it is only perpetuating it. Not only does Matsuno establish characters with depth, he places them often in massive worlds as simply pieces to a significantly larger puzzle, which again is to be contrasted with the norm in JRPGs, wherein the player's party is the hope for the world, often facing off against the reason they are needed in the first place. This was refreshing, and I don't mean to suggest that it curtails certain power fantasy tropes through the gameplay, but it does smartly alter the story in a way that revitalized JRPG world building for me. I was bummed he had to leave Final Fantasy XII early on, who knows what might have been altered, but we need, simply put, more writers like Matsuno, writers that make projects recognizably their own and do so through deep characterization and agonizing the player with tales of great loss and great sacrifice, often unbeknownst to the game world at large. He's currently working on a Kickstarter title called Unsung Story and is the designer for it. I don't necessarily know much about the title. I'm positive Matsuno's trademarks will be immediately noticeable though. Or not, I simply want to see him stay involved in this medium. He just has way too much talent. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. My Twitter is also located right below the video. This has been Andrew with High Level Reviews, and I appreciate you guys stopping by.